Long ago, in a warm and quiet land, nestled between hills and tall baobab trees, there was a village called Irumole. This village was not wealthy with gold or cattle, but it overflowed with peace, laughter, and unity. Chickens roamed freely through courtyards, the smell of roasted yams curled through the air each evening, and everyone knew everyone. By name, by smile, by story. Children played in dusty fields until the sun dipped low. Women gathered under mango trees to braid hair and gossip, while the men sat on wooden stools outside the village square, sharing stories of the past. Life in Irumole was slow, steady, and simple, the kind of life where one could sleep with, doors open and hearts soft. In this village lived a kind-hearted man named Tajuddin, known by many simply as Taju. He was not a rich man, but he had something richer than coin, the love of his people. Taju sold roofing sheets and nails at the market, and people often came not just to buy, but to sit with him, laugh with him, or ask for help. His hands were always open. If someone had no money but needed help fixing their roof, he gave without asking. If a woman needed to pay her son's school fees, he handed over what he had, never keeping track, never expecting repayment. Taju was the kind of man who believed that blessings flowed like rivers, that what you gave came back in other forms. And for him, that blessing came in the shape of a woman named Amalia Mali. His wife was the village's most sought-after hairdresser. She had nimble fingers and a gentle touch. Her small thatch-roof salon under the flame tree buzzed every morning with girls and women hoping for cornrows, twists, or freshly tied scarves. But more than her skill, it was her smile that people came for, the kind that made you feel like the world was still good. Taju and Amale had been married for many years. But for 9 of those years their home was quiet. No baby cries, no tiny feet pattering on the floor. While others celebrated new births, Amale sat with folded hands and tear-filled eyes, praying each night to the sky for her own child. Then one bright Harmattan morning, her prayer was answered. She gave birth to a baby girl with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that sparkled like fresh rain. They named her Nia, which means purpose, because that child gave their life a new meaning. From the moment Nia took her first breath, her parents treasured her like a rare jewel. She grew up in love's embrace, hugged too often, praised too much, and protected more than any girl in the village. She never had to ask twice for anything. If she wanted mangoes, her father fetched them from the tallest tree. If she cried, her mother would leave customers waiting just to soothe her. Though pampered, Nia was not spoiled. She had the heart of her father, always kind, and the grace of her mother, always gentle. She greeted elders with bowed knees, shared her food with friends, and listened more than she spoke. Even the old women who sat on stools by the roadside often said, "That child, Nia, she carries the wisdom of the ancestors." As she grew, so did her beauty. Her skin glowed like palm oil, her hair coiled thick and full, and her smile lit up rooms like oil lamps on a festival night. But more than beauty, she was brilliant. She topped her class in every exam, and when she finished secondary school with flying colors, she told her parents she wanted to become a doctor. "My hands want to heal," she said softly one evening, sitting between her parents. "Like Mama's hands heal hair and Papa's heart heals people." Taju was speechless. He stared at her as though seeing her for the first time, then nodded slowly, pride swelling in his chest. Amale wiped away a tear, but dreams cost money, and though they had always given Nia the best they could, university was a mountain they could not climb yet. So one morning, while birds chirped and the village was just waking up, Taju sat her down beneath the avocado tree in their backyard. "My daughter," he began, holding her hand gently, "you are our moonlight. You've never made us ashamed, but your journey must pause for 1 year." Nia looked confused. "We need time," he continued, "to gather coins. We want you to enter university without worry, with your head high. We want you to study, not to chase boys or beg for food. So for this 1 year, stay close, read, prepare. I'll take you to the shop every day. It's quiet there. You can focus." Hamali nodded, adding, "If you stay with me, your hands will be too busy making hair to touch your books." Nia smiled. "I understand. I'll wait." And so began her routine. Every morning, after sweeping the compound and warming leftover yam porridge, Nia followed her father to his small shop at the edge of the market. She sat on a low stool behind the counter, reading thick books while her father attended to customers. Sometimes she peeked up to watch him, the way he spoke, softly, the way he gave money to those in need without thinking twice. She saw it all. A woman came in crying. Her husband had died. Taju gave her a full bag of iron rods and waved her off. A boy came in shyly asking for just one nail. His sandal had broken. Taju gave him new ones and a bottle of groundnut. Nia's eyes would glisten. "That's my father," she would whisper proudly. Then came a Saturday that changed everything. The market had been busy. Dust clung to Nia's legs as she returned from errands her mother had sent her on. Her arms were sore from carrying 2 fat bags of cassava and beans. But when she reached the compound, she froze. There, parked like a red jewel in front of their humble home, was a sleek, shiny car. A city car. A rich person's car. Her heart jumped. She knew. "Aunt Zari," she shouted, letting the bags fall with a soft thud. She ran inside barefoot into the parlor, and there she was. Tall, dark-skinned, glowing with perfume and gold. Bangles, sat Zari, her father's only sister. The aunt who lived in the big city. The aunt who hadn't visited in years but always sent gifts wrapped in shiny paper. The aunt who, as a child, Nia dreamed of becoming. "Auntie!" Nia cried, throwing her arms around the woman. Zari laughed, deep and smooth like melted chocolate. "Ah, Nia, you have become a full woman. Oh, you even smell like city girl now." They laughed, held hands and sat. Gifts followed. Dresses with shiny beads, a bottle of hair cream from abroad, flat slippers that sparkled. That evening, as the sky turned gold and shadows stretched across the courtyard, Zari sat on a low bamboo chair sipping chilled hibiscus tea. Her wrists jingled softly with each movement, gold bangles catching the fading light. Her brother Tajuddin sat beside her on a wooden stool, barefoot and thoughtful, brushing dust from his wrapper. Children's laughter echoed from the nearby mango trees, and the smell of burning firewood wrapped the evening in warmth. "Sister," Tajuddin said, finally breaking the silence, "you've barely spoken all day." Zari smiled faintly, then leaned in. "I've been thinking," she said. "Instead of Nia following you to that noisy market every morning, wouldn't it be better if she came with me to the city?" Tajuddin looked at her, blinking. "She can study better there," Zari continued, voice smooth. "Quiet room, no distractions. I'll enroll her in computer classes, maybe even help her apply for a scholarship. You know we live in modern times. Now everything is technology. The world is growing. Let her grow with it." Tajuddin scratched his beard. "It's not a bad idea," he admitted. "But Nia has never left this village since she was born. Let's ask her first. If she agrees, then all right." Later that night, under a sky full of stars and singing crickets, they called Nia outside. She was still admiring her new clothes, neatly folded on her bed. Zari cleared her throat dramatically and smiled. "Nia," she began, "how would you like to come to the city with me?" Nia gasped. "To the city? Truly, Auntie?" "Yes," Zari said. "To study, prepare for your dreams, and see the world beyond Irumole." Nia's eyes shone brighter than the oil lamp beside her. "Yes, yes, Auntie, I want to go." Amale looked at her daughter, then at Zari. Her heart fluttered, half in pride, half in worry. Tajuddin placed a hand on her shoulder and nodded. That night, Nia didn't sleep. She packed her bag at least 5 times. She folded her blue dress, the one her mother stitched by hand, and tucked in her science textbooks, 3 notebooks, and her lucky pen. She placed a small photo of her parents between the pages of her Bible. Then she sat by the window, watching. The moon, her heart beating fast. The morning came like a dream. Birds chirped louder than usual. The sun rose quickly. Neighbors gathered to say goodbye. Amali brushed Nia's hair one last time and kissed her forehead. "Call when you arrive," she said, her voice shaking. Tajuddin placed both hands on her head and prayed, his voice low but steady. "May no harm touch you. May your dreams rise and your name never be forgotten." Then Nia stepped into the shiny red car, waved, and watched her village shrink behind her. They drove for hours, past green hills, wide rivers, and dusty towns. Nia pressed her face to the glass, eyes wide. She had never seen so many people, or so many buildings, or cars that moved without horses. Finally, they arrived. The compound was huge, bigger than any she had imagined. The gate opened automatically. Inside stood a house so tall and wide, Nia wondered if it touched the sky. Its white walls sparkled under the sun. Fancy cars lined the driveway. Flower beds bloomed in strange colors. 2 men in black suits were waiting at the entrance. They didn't smile. They didn't say welcome. They just nodded as Zari stepped out. Nia followed quickly, clutching her bag with excitement. But then something shifted. Zari turned, her expression calm and distant. She didn't smile anymore. Her voice was cold. "Take her to where the others are," she said to the men. Nia's steps froze. "Auntie." The men grabbed her arms. "Auntie Zari, where are they taking me?" Zari didn't answer. She turned and walked through the front door without looking back. "Auntie, please, it's me, Nia, your niece." But Zari was gone. The men dragged her down a narrow path. Behind the house, Nia kicked and screamed, but no one came, no one heard, or no one cared. Behind the house was a high wall of thorny bushes. One man pushed the leaves aside, revealing a small wooden gate, half covered in vines. It creaked open. Nia stumbled through and gasped. Behind the gate was a vast stretch of farmland, endless and wild. The soil was dark, dry, and cracked. Sharp sticks poked from the ground like claws. The sun above was merciless. They walked for over an hour, forcing her to move fast, her legs shaking. As they moved deeper, she began to notice them. Children, dozens of them, walking through rows of crops, dragging tools, their eyes hollow. Some were as young as 9. Others looked close to her age. They moved slowly, some limping. There were men holding long sticks, shouting orders. One child tripped and fell. A man whipped him hard across the back. Nia's heart thudded in her chest. She felt sick. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Where am I?" she whispered. No one answered. Finally, they reached a small hut made of mud bricks and tin sheets. But the men didn't stop there. Behind the hut was a hole in the ground. They led her down a narrow staircase, dark, damp, cold. It was an underground house. The smell hit her first. Sweat, mold, fear. Then the sound, soft crying, whispers, moans. Then the sight, children. Packed into a small room, sitting on bare floors, backs against cold stone walls. Some looked her age. Others were just kids. Their faces were pale, their arms thin, their clothes torn. They stared at her as the men pushed her inside and locked the door. Nia dropped to her knees. Her body trembled. She wanted to scream, but no voice came out. One girl with braided hair leaned close. "Don't fight," she whispered. "They'll beat you." Nia's lips shook. "Why are we here?" The girl didn't answer. She just looked away. Nia was traumatized. This couldn't be real. Her aunt, the one who gave her dresses and sweets, had sent her here. She had trusted her. She had left her mother's arms. She had waved goodbye to her father, and now she was trapped. She sat in the corner of the cold underground room, her knees drawn tightly to her chest. The floor beneath her was damp, the air thick with sweat, dust, and hopelessness. All around her were other children, some younger, some older, their eyes hollow, their backs hunched, their spirits dim. No one spoke unless necessary. Only soft sobs and coughs echoed in the dark. It felt like time had disappeared, and they were buried alive in the belly of the earth. Tears streamed down Nia's cheeks, hot and fast. The shock had not left her body since that moment she was dragged away, betrayed by the very woman she had loved and trusted most, her aunt, her own blood. She had dreamed of city lights, books, computers, clean clothes. But this was a nightmare that refused to end. She clutched her chest and sobbed silently, thinking about her father's voice, his gentle laughter, and her mother's soft humming at dawn. "Will I ever see them again?" she whispered into the darkness. The days that followed blurred into each, other stitched together by pain and terror. Every morning, long before the sun rose, footsteps thundered down the corridor and voices barked orders. "Wake up! Move! If any child delayed or groaned too loudly, they were kicked, slapped, or whipped with a rubber pipe. The guards, always dressed in black with eyes colder than the stone walls, showed no mercy. By 5 a.m., all the children were herded outside. A cold jet of water was sprayed on them using cracked plastic pipes. No soap, no towels, just icy. Blasts to shock them awake and keep them dirty but presentable. There was no time to speak, no time to breathe. Once wet, they were marched out in long lines, boys and girls alike, through the farmland hidden behind the mansion. Nia had never seen such cruelty before. From sunrise to sunset, they worked. Their hands were forced into the earth, digging, weeding, carrying sacks and planting crops. The sun burned their necks, their bare feet blistered on hot soil and thorns. No hats, no gloves, no food. If someone slowed down, if a child dared to rest or cry, the guards would lash out with sticks, wires or boots. Nia watched a boy faint once. He was no older than 10. One of the guards poured water on his face and kicked him until he stood, staggering like a dying goat. Another girl fell with exhaustion and didn't rise. They dragged her away, and she never returned. Every day ended the same way. As the orange sun sank into the hills, the children were sprayed again with cold water, not to clean them but to wash off dirt like animals. They were never allowed to bathe. Then came the worst part, dinner. It was not a meal. It was a war. A metal bowl with watery porridge or a small portion of dry gari would be dumped in the center of the yard. The guard stood back and watched as the children scrambled and fought like stray dogs. Only the fastest and strongest got food. The rest slept hungry. Nia barely ate. Her bones began to poke through her skin. Her lips cracked. Her voice grew faint. She looked down at her arms one evening and hardly recognized them. She was melting away. One night, as she sat in her usual corner, trembling and cold, a girl shuffled closer. Her face was thin, but her eyes held something that the others didn't. Not hope, but strength. "You're new," the girl said softly. Nia looked up and nodded. "My name's Tamara," she whispered. "How long have you been here?" "I don't know," Nia murmured. "A few days, maybe more." Tamara sighed. "I've been here for over 3 years. I was taken when I was 13. Nia blinked. 3 years? Tamara nodded, brushing dirt off her knees. "I stopped counting. I've seen so many come and go. Some disappear. Some get sent to another camp. Others don't make it." Nia's heart dropped. "They said we'd be given scholarships," she whispered, tears returning. "That we'd go to school. They said they'd help us." Tamara looked away. "They say many things, but none of it is true." They sat together in silence. Around them, a few children groaned in their sleep. Others clutched their stomachs. In the far corner, a boy whispered to himself, repeating the same prayer over and over. From that night on, Tamara became Nia's shadow. She shared her portion of food, helped her learn how to move during farm work without catching the guards' attention, and whispered stories from her past when the nights got too heavy. And still, the days dragged on, always the same. Wake. Up in terror, get blasted with cold water. March to the fields, work till your fingers bleed, get beaten, fight for food, collapse into darkness. Nia lost all sense of time. Her face grew hollow, her once bright eyes dimmed. Her voice became a whisper. Her spirit, that spark her father had always spoken of, flickered dangerously low. But what broke her heart the most was not her pain. It was knowing her parents didn't even know she was suffering. They probably still believed the lies her aunt had told, that she was safe, that she was in school, that she had flown abroad to study medicine. Back in Irumole, life went on, unaware of the horror hidden behind the city mansion's walls. One sunny afternoon, Tajuddin sat outside with Hamale, reading a letter that had arrived in a bright white envelope sealed with golden edges. "My dear brother," it began, "I am proud to inform you that Nia has received a full scholarship to study medicine in America. She is already on her way, and everything has been arranged. Attached is a copy of the admission letter." Amale cried with joy. She danced around the compound, thanking the heavens. Neighbors came running to hear the news. "Nia is going to America," they shouted. "Our doctor is coming." The letter was passed around like treasure. Everyone smiled. Everyone clapped. Only Nia, in that dark dungeon, knew the truth. She was not in any classroom. She was not in any country. She was beneath the ground, buried but breathing, in a place where dreams went to die. Then, one morning, something strange happened. As the children gathered for farm duty, the guards were unusually silent. They stood straighter, their eyes darted around, and then she appeared, Zari, dressed in a tight purple gown with gold earrings, hand-black sunglasses. She walked across the dusty farm like a queen. Her perfume filled the air before she even spoke. It was the first time Nia had seen her since that terrible day. Her knees went weak. Zari didn't smile. She paced slowly through. The children inspecting them like they were livestock. "That one's too small," she muttered. "That one's too sick." Then she stopped. She pointed at a line of older girls, including Nia and Tamara. "These ones. Take them to the next camp," she said flatly. "They are no longer useful here. They are ready for something else." Nia's heart pounded. "But first," Zari added, "bathe them, feed them, change their clothes. I want them clean." Then she turned to leave. Nia found her voice. It cracked as it came out. Auntie Zari, please!" Zari paused. She slowly turned her head and looked at her niece. Thin, broken, shaking. "Auntie, I beg you, please help me." Their eyes locked. Zari blinked once, cold, empty. Then she turned and walked away without a word. Nia collapsed to her knees and cried out. It was the deepest pain she had ever felt. Not from hunger, not from the beatings, but from that look, that silence. Her aunt had buried her, while still alive. They weren't the only girls in the fire. Back. At least 10 others sat in silence, their eyes sunken, their spirits dimmed. Nia felt every bump in the road like a drumbeat against her ribs. She tried to catch Tamara's eye, but her friend wouldn't look at her. Shame covered them both like dust. When the truck finally groaned to a halt, they were yanked out by men with no names and cold eyes. A large building loomed ahead, clean, too clean. Its cream walls sparkled under the sun, its windows dark, like secrets. The iron gate opened and they were marched inside. Girls stood everywhere, dozens of them, all around Nia's age, dressed in fitted clothing, their faces powdered, their hair straightened or curled. They stared silently at the newcomers. Nia noticed something strange. These girls looked well-fed, healthier than she expected. But their eyes were hollow graves. The girls were allowed to bathe. For the first time in 2 years, Nia felt warm water wash over her skin. It stung at first, like the past was being scrubbed off her. She didn't cry. She just stared into the water and wondered if this was the beginning of another lie. They were given food, real food, spicy rice, fried chicken, fruit. It almost felt like kindness. But Nia had already learned. Not every soft hand meant safety. Sometimes wolves wore silk gloves. Days passed. They were dressed up, taught how to speak sweetly, how to smile without feeling. Some of the older girls told them to obey if they wanted to live. Nia's stomach twisted. She didn't understand. What was this place really? Then it began. One day, a tall man with a scar beneath his eye approached Tamara. His eyes scanned her like a customer in a market. "You're ripe," he muttered, grabbing her arm. "Ripe for what?" Tamara asked, her voice shaking. But he didn't answer. He dragged her down the hallway. Nia tried to follow, but one of the guards slammed the door in her face. She sat outside that door all night. She heard everything. The crying, the screaming, the shuffling of footsteps as man after man entered and exited. It didn't stop until dawn. And when Tamara was returned, she was silent. Her dress was torn. Her face blank. Tamara didn't speak for 3 days. Then it was Nia's turn. They came for her like they always did. No warning, no mercy. She was shoved into a dark room with red velvet curtains and a clean, cruel mirror. Her heart raced. She heard the click of the door. Behind her, then footsteps. A man stepped in. He looked at her and froze. "Nia?" he said. She blinked. "Do I know you?" "Of course you do. You're Nia Ebele, aren't you? Tajuddin's daughter. You used to sit in your father's hardware shop after school, always reading, always writing. Her mouth dropped open. How do you... I'm Malik. My father, Papa the carpenter, borrowed money from your dad a few times. I used to come with him. I remember you. Quiet, bookish, brilliant. You were supposed to be in America. Tears sprang to her eyes. I never left. Malik stepped closer. What are you doing here? Naya broke. Everything poured out. The fake scholarship, Aunt Zari's betrayal, the hell she'd lived through for years. She wept until her chest burned. Malik knelt beside her and held her hand. Listen to me, he whispered. I will get you out, but you have to trust me. Pretend we don't know each other. Don't tell anyone. If they find out I'm helping you... She nodded. He stood, took one last look, and walked out the door. The next morning, Malik left the city and headed straight to Nia's village. The journey was long and painful, but his mind burned with purpose. He arrived at the Ebeli home by sunset. Mr. Tajuddin, Nia's father, was sitting under the neem tree when Malik approached. Sir, he said urgently, I bring news about your daughter. Tajuddin smiled warmly. Ah, my Nia, she's doing well in the States. My sister Zari says she's making us proud. Malik's face tightened. Sir, your daughter never left the country. Tajuddin's smile faded. What? She's been trapped in a brothel. I saw her. I spoke to her. She's been lied to, abused, sold. Tajuddin staggered. No, that's not true. Zari showed us letters, emails. Maliki pulled out his phone. Fake, all fake. She's not in Atlanta. She's here. She needs you. Tajuddin's wife let out a piercing wail from inside the house. They gathered themselves and marched to the police station with Malik. After submitting a statement and presenting the evidence, officers launched a full investigation. Within days, police stormed the mansion. They raided the compound, the underground rooms, the modeling house, and all of it. Girls screamed, doors burst open, and shadows of years-old secrets scattered. One by one, young women were led out, some limping, some crying, some too stunned to speak. But every single one of them was free now. From the dark basement of that building, Nia and Tamara were pulled into the light. Their eyes squinted at the sun like it was a stranger. Then a familiar voice cried out, Nia! She turned. Her knees buckled. Daddy, she whispered. Before she could even take a breath, she ran, full speed, across the compound and into her father's arms. Tajuddin caught her like he'd been holding his arms out for years, waiting for this moment. My princess, my baby girl, he whispered, tears rolling down his cheeks. Nia buried her face in his chest, sobbing. The smell of dust and heat clung to her skin, but she didn't care. She was home, or as close as she had been in a long, long time. Tamara watched from behind, clutching her own hands tightly. Tajuddin turned to her and opened his other arm. You too, child, he said gently. Tamara walked slowly, cautiously, but as soon as she was pulled into that embrace, her walls crumbled. For the first time in forever, she felt wanted. The police didn't stop there. Madame Naya, the cruel woman who had run the operation, was dragged out of her lavish office in handcuffs. Her expensive wig fell sideways. Her perfect red lipstick was smeared from screaming. You can't do this to me, she yelled. I have rights. But the officers didn't even flinch. Every man who worked for her, the drivers, the guards, the fake recruiters, was arrested. Chains clinked. Curses flew. But no one cared. The evil they had done had finally caught up to them. Days later, court proceedings began. Witnesses spoke, survivors cried, documents were shown, and the judge, with fire in his voice, pronounced the final sentence. Death by firing squad. The courtroom gasped. Some wept, some clapped. Justice had been served. Not even Aunt Zari, who had vanished like smoke, could escape the weight of truth now. Her name was printed in headlines, cursed in villages, and remembered as a traitor to blood. When Nia finally returned to her village, everything looked smaller. The trees, the houses, the narrow paths between farms, it all felt like a forgotten dream, but home was still home. Her mother dropped to her knees when she saw Nia. My baby, she cried, kissing her cheeks over and over. Oh, thank you. God, thank you, thank you. Neighbors came with baskets of yams and hot soup. Some cried and begged for forgiveness for not questioning Aunt Zari's story sooner. But Nia didn't want their pity. She only wanted peace. Tamara moved in with them for a while. Nia's room was cleaned and repainted. Her bed was made with new sheets. But at night, when the world went quiet, she still heard echoes, men's voices, slammed doors, footsteps. She would wake up screaming. Tajuddin would rush into her room, sit beside her and hold her hands. "You're safe now, Nia," he whispered. "You're home, no one will ever hurt you again." But he knew it wouldn't be easy. One evening, he sat alone with his wife. "She's scarred, Ada, deep inside. But I will spend every coin, every second to help her heal." And he did. Therapists were brought in. Doctors visited. Nia was given time to cry, to breathe, to remember, and to rebuild. Sometimes, Tamara sat beside her on the porch and whispered, "We're not broken, just bent, and bends can be straightened." Nia smiled when she said that. Years passed. The nightmares lessened. The wounds faded into scars. But Nia never forgot. And she never forgave what had been done. Instead, she transformed her pain into purpose. She opened a center for rescued girls, a bright blue building with white pillars and wide windows. Inside, laughter echoed. Songs were sung. Young girls painted their dreams on canvas. She named it House of Daughters. Every week, Nia stood before them and told her story, not with bitterness but with strength. "I was sold by someone I called family, but I was saved by a man my father once helped. Kindness, even small, returns when you least expect it." And every time she said those words, Tamara stood behind her, no longer the silent girl from the truck, but the bold director of programs. They wore matching bracelets that read, "No girl left behind." Even when betrayal comes from blood, hope can be born from strangers. A single act of kindness years ago saved a life when it mattered most. Never underestimate what your goodness can do tomorrow. Please like, subscribe, and share this story if it moved you, and tell us in the comments. What lesson did you learn from Nia's journey?